of the complaints that people get. Then over time, throughout the registration period, we saw that a lot of people had issues using that portal. Then we deployed a lot of, we trained volunteers. We set up help desk in churches and religious places across about 10 states in Nigeria. I think we trained about 86 volunteers that were coming in, day out to help people use their smartphones, use their tablets, use their laptops to be able to help citizens to do basic things like transfer of your polling unit. If your card is lost, they are able to help you request for another card. And afterwards, if you want to update your information, etc., those basic things that you really don't need to go into INEC office to do. Because there were a lot of queues at INEC offices, and even literate people that are not politically literate, or so to say, they were still making the same mistakes of staying under the sun and staying in queues where they're not really supposed to. So that actually really helped us to reduce queues in certain places where we had our volunteers, and that was actually a good use of technology. Then even beyond that also, we have our RSVP, so we have an OOTC WhatsApp bot. We know that WhatsApp is one of the largest social media space, so to say, that we use. Over billions of people use WhatsApp. So we created a WhatsApp bot where people can interact with the bot and be able to solve basic problems pertaining to elections.
Okay, fantastic. So one quick oversight. While I introduce my panelists, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Tolulokwe Adelere Balogun. I'm a Nigerian journalist. I have a long list, but right now I'm currently head of programs for News Central, which is a Pan-African TV station based here in Lagos, Nigeria. So Ayomide, tell us about using technology with the work that you're doing with Tracker Nigeria.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. So Tracker is a subset of Budget Nigeria, or Budget Foundation. And Budget itself is based on technology, because the work that we do is basically leveraging technology to be able to drive civic engagement. And in terms of also using technology to simplify budget data, projects, access and all. Yesterday or 2 days ago, we just released another tool, which is called the FG dashboard. Once you go to the dashboard on our website, you see the simplified detail of the federal government budget, allocations to different MDAs, sectionalized by year. So you can pick another year, you see all the numbers for those years, you see the projects, you see the allocations. So there is also another tool that we have that I like the most, which is called GovSpend. So why GovSpend is different is because GovSpend shows you the disbursement that the federal government has made to any organization up to the name of the contractor and the payment details, what this payment was for, the day this payment was made, the payment code. So what that helps anybody do is that, because we have a lot of issues whereby when we call out a politician or we call out a government agency that, oh, this amount of money has been budgeted for this, and this is what we expect. Then they come out and say, oh, it was budgeted does not mean it was released, which sometimes is valid. But then what GovSpend does is that once we can mail you, it's like catching somebody in camera and saying, oh, this is it. You were paid so amount of money. This is the contractor that it was paid to, and this is what it was supposed to be used for. If it's either 2 blocks of classroom or 10-kilometer stretch of road or something, and maybe when it is supposed to be 10-kilometer stretch of road, you actually constructed just 2 kilometers. Now you can have an evidence-based either argument or advocacy, or even up to the extent of prosecution, so that tool is another way for us to be able to improve accountability and good governance in Nigeria, because it shows that you cannot get funds to do something and not do what it was supposed to be done for. So we have an array of tools, and we are always at every point using social media to simplify budget information for citizens. We recognize that the way the world is moving now, especially Nigeria, the power is in the hands of the youth, if I'll say that in quotes. and the youth are using the emerging technologies. So if we are to be able to make governance attractive enough for the youth, we are always waking up every new morning to find a way that we can bridge the gap between tech, governance, and the citizens.
And basically with the youth, it's meeting them where they are, meeting them on the platforms where they gather and use, and making those platforms more malleable to the issues around civic engagement and, of course, governance. So, Kunle, let me come to you now. With the Electoral College, in terms of technology and how that's used, how is the Electoral College using it?
First and foremost, I think the college would say, as many people would not want to say this, I would say we're kind of grateful to COVID. We had held two different, so I'll break down what we do, but let me first say this. We had held two kind of seeming cohorts in University of Uyo and University of Calabar with a budget of nearly 7.5 million per cohort. So what the Electoral College does is that it's the first political literacy school in Nigeria and also Africa. And we have a 26-course module. We walk you through everything. I'm amazed with the work budget tracker Enough is doing, but to be able to understand this, we found out that Nigerians are politically illiterate, and to the tune of about 96%, which is high. And I
think a lot of us would disagree. You know, we'll stand at newspaper stands, we'll vent on Twitter, we'll rant. If you tell people that Nigerians are actually politically ignorant, don't know about the processes, don't understand governance.
Well, I will agree with him.
We're also talking of people in political office are 84% politically illiterate, so they don't even know their own jurisdiction of office. And I'll give you an example. I've sat down with the chairman in Etiosa, and he claims not to be aware, but if I asked anybody in the room what the FAC allocation was to Etiosa, I'm sure budget will be able to answer. But that's because they are budget. But the average Nigerian can't answer that question. Even the sitting House of Rep for this particular constituency cannot answer how much FAC allocation is. And I'll tell you, it's 503 million per month. And
per month?
Yes.
Please, I think you need to re-emphasize that. No, it's necessary, because when you... They can't hear you.
Oh, I said, but it's not that much money when you think about it in terms of administration, though.
So, but then when you multiply it on a yearly level and multiply it several years without questions.
You know the lovely part with the Electoral College, so I'll still defining the Electoral College, is that we come on two sides. So, for most CSOs, they have been activists, they've been in that position. The Electoral College comes from, you know, a set of people who have been politicians, who have been within the system, who have worked within government, and then decided to give back. So we're the best of both sides, served in political parties. I myself, I was a former National Publicity Secretary, senatorial candidate, FCT 2019. And then now, you know, I've become a retired politician. So we kind of have walked through the system, and we understand at each stage, and we've been citizens. So looking at what technology has done, I'd say we need the work, of course, of tracker, budget. We use your work. That's, you know that now, we're partners. We use your work, and, you know, to help, you know, educate within these 26 modules, which cover from what the legislative does, what the local government does, what the executive has, that's appointed executive, elected executive, what their own jurisdictions and what they've been able to do. I would say something. The greatest gift technology has given the Electoral College is not the fact that we've trained over 10,000 in its first 3 years. It is the fact that we could host the Lagos East by-election senatorial debate, which was the first in Africa at that level, without setting a boot on ground in Lagos. Not one foot on ground in Lagos. And we held a virtual debate. And it was impressive. At least we hit Twitter's top 6 in Nigeria going on that day. It was a conversation. And most people will say, okay, you held this debate. Where exactly did the debate go? I always remember a girl, I can't remember what party she was in. And nobody knew her. And the kind of questions we asked in our debate enabled her. She was talking about bills. She was talking about, you know, the kind of projections she wanted to give. it was so surprising that we studied her, basic social media handles. Followers increased by about approximately 1,000, 1,002. But this was the shocking part. In the election, someone who was not known rapidly came, I think she came about 4th in that election.
She climbed the ladder.
Yes, so we didn't alter the election, but at least we made people recognize that this person existed. And for me, that was the biggest gift technology has given the Electoral College. Yes, we continue training. Yes, we continue doing a lot of work virtually and this thing, of course, in conjunction with all of our partners that exist.
Okay, so I'll start the questions now, and Bukola Idowu is joining us now, but let me start the question list because we've talked about activism and there are concerns. I had them because I know keyboard warriors is a term that many of us are familiar with, but when it comes to online activism, there's actually a term, slacktivism, about activists who are online, but they slack because they're online. So Bukola, unfortunately that first question goes to you as you just joined us now. In terms of the concerns about emerging technologies, maybe sort of lulling citizens into a false sense of action, that I can sign a petition, I can watch a debate, I can take part on social media debates and be part of something, and that's me being an activist. Do you think we can sort of overcome that criticism, or at least that concern of these emerging technologies and how they're being used? Because there's still the room for physical action, for bodies on the streets, bodies in front of the National Assembly, bodies doing certain things on the street rather than just being behind a keyboard. What do you think of those concerns, and can we overcome them?
Thank you very much. I think for me, our concern should be how to connect the offline territory with the online territory. And so we can't say that because we are in this digital generation and then the offline aspect of activism and organizing is not real. Because we need to understand that activism, organizing is for a particular cause. And the people at the center of the cause are not in this generation. Why we mobilize, and then we need to begin to see how we can translate that to offline. Now, one of the things the technology has done is to, one, shorten the time. Now, make our message to go viral like wildfire, and then everybody is actually a means of transmitting knowledge to a lot of people and making them to be aware. Now, awareness is just at the least bottom of the ladder. Now, action is where you see how we can now translate the awareness into action. And I give you an example. In Osun State, we had a particular project we did with the Osun State House of Assembly. We find out that these people, you know, when you offend, when you are not in the good book of the government, and then you just find out that something just happened, and then there is a law in this state that states this. People are not aware, and year over year, they keep passing law. So we work with the State Assembly to develop what we call e-parliaments. You know, so where citizens can see the law that are being passed, who is passing the law, and if they are currently discussing it, at what stage it is, and then you can download those part of that, and then just basically open the State House of Assembly up for people. And that was the technology we brought into that at that particular level. This is where the challenge is. Now, how do we now get people to be aware and make use of it? And what I think is still missing is galvanizing action. And we need to really, really look deeply into that. And all over the world, where technology has been used to promote democracy, there is still an offline aspect to it that needs to be pushed.
Very true. So, David, I'll follow up with how he answered and come to you, because EIE has been in this space for over a decade now, a very long time. So you've seen sort of the changing temperament and sentiment with the Nigerian populace, and with 18 to 34-year-olds being around 37% of the registered voters. I spoke to Festus Okoye yesterday. Everyone I've spoken to, they say it's the young people that will determine this election, but that only works if the young people turn out. So when we follow up and we follow through in terms of moving from the online to the offline, what changes has EIE seen that technology has sort of helped to increase the civic engagement, but may in some way falsely lull people into thinking that they're doing as much as they should be doing?
So I think that's an interesting question, because technology actually, what technology does is that it actually amplifies. I think that's basically it. It simplifies what you're doing and it amplifies it. So I'll just make a more relatable case to this thing I was discussing a couple of minutes ago. What technology was able to do for us in this registration process was that as much as we drove PVC collection in Lagos State or across the country, we still got to realize that some people were still disenfranchised, people that genuinely, legitimately registered and are on INEC's database, they were not able to pick up their PVC. And INEC, according to the Electoral Act and according to the law, they owe every Nigerian citizen that's legitimately registered, they owe them a PVC, you know? And I think after we finished our RSVP complaint I talked about the other time, we sent a message to people to say, oh, if you still have a complaint that you're not able to pick up your PVC and you have a P, you have, what's it called? You have, yes, you have, you have something to show for it. They are legitimately registered. And I think we sent text message to it about 845 people, and in less than 48 hours, we had 168 respondents. That is what technology can do. In the time past, people would just rant and go and sit down at home. But people, by just their text messages, by just WhatsApp messages, by just Twitter, people are able to take actions to actually say that these are the evidences, and we can now stand with other CSOs to say that, okay, we need to speak for this set of people. That is what the work of technology actually unearths. Yes, we are speaking to young people, and young people talk a lot online. But in the real sense of it, we are using technology also to galvanize the voice that we have online to come actually offline, to take the actions that needs to be taken for a real change to be effected in our governance system. I believe so much, like you rightly said, that whatever is going to change in the 2023 elections actually is in the hand of the young people, it's hands of the citizens. I mean, we have the numbers, even after there's a lot of breakdown of electorates and registrations, we still have the numbers. The young people are still going to determine this. But however, how informed are this set of people? That is what you should be talking about. How informed are they? How are we able to get them where they are? Say they are on social media, are they on TikTok, are they on Twitter? What language do they speak over there on Twitter? What do they respond to? What does it just do want to hear? How do they want to hear governance, so to say? So I think that is how we are actually able to meet them in the middle, or at where they are, to actually give them the information that they need to actually make the change they have to make.
Fantastic, thank you. Ayomide, let me follow up, because you were agreeing with Kunle when he said that probably around 96% of Nigerians are politically illiterate.
Oh, I didn't agree with the stats.
Okay, you don't agree with the stats, but you agree with the sentiment around around the conversation there. So when it comes to Tracker's work and using that to bridge the gap of political or governance or government illiteracy, because government's democracy, civic education, politics, they're all wrapped up into one big puzzle for all of us. So at the end of the day, what technologies now is Tracker employing to be able to bridge that gap? And the budget aspect of things, trust me, I've been on radio and TV doing it. For many people, it is not interesting. But they're getting to a point where they understand you need to track every single naira and kobo that is budgeted for, that makes its way to an MDA, that goes into the hands of a contractor, because it's the difference between a good school, a good road, good healthcare in your area, and all of that. So let's talk about the emerging technologies budget is using now, and also how budget is bridging the gap in helping people to become more literate.
So we're actually bridging the gap in two ways. Tracker in itself is majors in actually going to communities and actually enlightening people in communities. And that's why I agreed with him, because I have also been going to communities, and you realize that a lot of people do not understand how the governance structure works or how the system works. And if you don't understand how the structure or the system works, you cannot successfully advocate for anything, because maybe your road that is bad, that is supposed to be done by a local government chairman, you're thinking maybe it's Sonwolu or the president that will do it for you, and it's not going to happen. Or I've seen a case whereby in somewhere between Ikorodu and Itaoluwo, they share a border with Ogun State. they have a very bad road. And they were going to meet a very bad road, that is a federal road, but they were going to meet their local government chairman and their state and even their federal reps. And one of their federal reps came and gave them 1 million naira. And even they know that 1 million naira will not even buy sand for that road. But because they did not know how to properly channel their structure of advocacy, so they are probably going to, maybe another year, somebody will come and give them 1.5 million just to keep their cries, just to lower it a bit and go. And at the end, they are not going to achieve anything. So we have presence in 32 states, plus the FCT that's they're doing. We have officers there. And what the officers do is that they go to communities. Communities where technology is not even present. They go there, they enlighten them, they give them budgetary information and all that. And you see the difference between a community that is empowered and enlightened and a community that is not, because you can track the changes that happen in those communities. We have a lot of situations whereby they call us back and tell us that, oh, thank you, we have been able to do so and so with this information, and now we have this. So that is one of the reasons why I agreed with him that there needs to be a lot of political literacy. Even people in the room, even young people, you ask a lot of us, how does the legislative system work? How does the executive system work? How does this? Who is meant to? A lot of us don't know that it is actually the executive that implements projects. You go and be calling out legislators. Meanwhile, legislators are just probably oversight, and their oversight might not even be strong enough. So you see that there is still need for a lot of political literacy. And one of the ways that we are doing that is also that we are creating websites and platforms. If you go to our tracker.ng, we have a website that details all this. Then we also have an initiative called the Community Champions Initiative, where we have young people in their communities come together in each state, and we organize periodic trainings for them to be able to be empowered and equipped to actually demand for advocacy. So that is how, so these community champions, we have the online, or the ones that have the capacity to be online, are online. The ones that cannot be online are offline. So these are the many ways in which budget is trying to bridge that information gap using technology.
Thank you. So we will be taking questions before we wrap up the panel. But before that, Kunle, I'm coming back to you now. So you said something very interesting about having the very first local government debate. Lagos East, so very small Lagos constituency.
East, your constituency, Lagos East senatorial by-election.
Okay, so Lagos East senatorial by-election, and that comes to a very low level of government.
No, it's not low level.
No, that's why I was hesitating, because I didn't want to use the word low. A very, I'm looking for a word.
Senate is federal now.
Yeah, but not popular. Okay, I'm going there. So not popular. No, Senate is popular, but when you look at it as a by-election, you look at it, it's such a very small aspect of what's... Okay, let me go to my question before I confuse everybody. So my question is this. When it comes to elections, we can see so much focus on the center, on the presidency. When I spoke to the head of Yaga last week, he said that he's not expecting a very major turnout when it comes to the March 11th elections for the governorship and the state houses of assembly. So when you look at the response you got, when you look at what happened with the young lady who was a contestant, and then you look at the other levels of government and how we're really not paying attention, how do we use technology in that space to bring more attention to governance, to state houses of assembly, to local government? I was trying to use that as a stepping stone, but it didn't work, so I take it back.
Okay. So the first thing we've tried to tell people is that, number one, you actually don't even have business with the president. We've started to dispel that, and that the honest truth is that if a country is working functionally, you do not have. We've also tried to separate the functions. So now we'll tell you, in a local government, you have councillors, you have local government chairman. Executive, local government chairman. Councillors, legislative. Your National Assembly in your local government is your councillors. It is so shocking, and hence, back in the statement I made, it's so shocking that people assume councillors are legislative. And as she was saying something about the road, she was still saying they went to meet their House of Rep. Now, I'll explain something. 80, 90, about, let's say 80% of Nigerians do not know that constituency projects are non-constitutional. It has no basis in our constitution. So it means it's money stolen from somewhere, given to someone to throw around. That's the first problem. A legislator has no executive function. His functions are legislative, which include budget oversight, amendments of laws, and creation of new laws. And that is the jurisdiction of his work. But you see people earning so much money and passing out with probably zero. If I asked in the room now, randomly, if I were just to ask the audience, Dino Melai and Ben Murray Bruce, who was a better senator? Can anybody attempt to answer that? Everybody is dodging. Everybody is dodging.
What are we basing it on?
No, a better senator to Nigeria. Fayokemi, you're not allowed to answer this question. So, this is part of the electoral college, it's not allowed. Okay, the panelists. Dino Melai, you are also not allowed. We've had that conversation.
I would like to say I do not live in their constituency. I have not been there. And I do not know their any laws that they have passed.
They are federal. Okay, you see now, you see that 96% I was talking about. You just hit it. You see, I keep explaining something. They are federal. The very idea that you are not in their constituency is a big problem. The word is federal. The word is not state. So any bill they pass is not for their constituency. If I pass a bill...
I do not know any bill they have passed.
What did you say?
I said I do not know any bill they have passed.
And they were in the 8th Senate.
But I know Dino actually put forth a number of bills.
Yes, Dino with his dancing or whatever, I think he's the highest performing senator of the 8th Senate, about 9 bills passed. Senator Ben Murray Bruce, 0 bills passed. Co-sponsored 1. I'm telling you, I know the stats.
Answer the question. Because on the surface level, you would naturally pick Bruce. And that's why I said I did not know the bills.
Well, I was just happy that you were not heading to him.
Yeah, so because my question is this: is their performance based on the number of bills they pass?
No, but it's more of
the quality
information
of the conversation they bring into that narrative.
Let me explain. First, in a country where bills are not even passed, we'll first start with the bills that are passed. You have a senator for Lagos Central who has been in the National Assembly for approximately 13 years. Bills passed 1. Co-sponsored 2. Bills passed 1. And wait. Let me make it, since it doesn't sound too scary because of 13 years. A senator's average earnings in 13 years is a little close to 3 billion naira without stealing 1 naira. So that you understand, in case you don't understand.
I understand Bukola's concern in terms of the quality or the quantity of time regular, but I also understand using that as a measure because of, unfortunately, the quality of governance or even behavior we get from them. So you start with saying, okay, have you even sponsored the bill?
1. Start there.
So I think, well, quickly, let me say this before I go to this one. Number 1, I don't want us to be carried away that young people are going to determine the outcome of this election.
Thank you.
Please, can you raise your voice?
Thank you.
I don't want us to be carried away that the young people are going to determine the outcome of this election. There are a lot of indices, but let's leave that. But this is my concern. We have discovered, and it's like nobody is saying that, we have been raising our voices. Now, we have discovered that the number of young people that registered during the CVR was 70% of the new 9 million added. However, have you noticed that the number of young people have reduced compared to 2019 election?
Agreed.
2019 election, we have 42 million young people. Now we are back to 37. Or I think 37, around 30, 32 or 37. So what is responsible? And yet we have high number of them that registered during this CVR. So one, we have to begin to, and this is where I agree with him. See, we conducted a research recently. Our outcome is this. There have been an increase in digital activism, but decrease in electoral knowledge. So we are active on Twitter, on all of these places, and we can say our mind, but the actual knowledge, because if young people check out that data, they should query it. We are the largest, 51% in 2019. How come we are now the least? In fact, according to all the age group, it's that young people that actually decrease. Even elderly people from 17 and above increase, like about 2 or 3 million. So young people are decreased. So and that is where data and that is where knowledge comes in. Now, we also discover that majority of the people, and we have also seen that as a potential for violence, majority of young people believe, no, the election is going to be decided by simple majority, which is not true. So you need to understand the permutation, so that when your candidate is not picked for runoff, in case it happens, you don't go on the street. You need to understand that thing, and that is where, in organizing, having this knowledge, one of the things I think we need to do is, Tracker, all of us seated here, how do we now begin to simplify with what we call tech for democracy? How do we now begin to simplify electoral act, simplify the constitution, simplify INEC guidelines in a way? I know we are doing that. Yes, I know. So I said so I know we are doing that. Now, we need to do more, and that is where collaboration needs to take place. They are doing at electoral fantastically well, but how do we partner? Yaiga, all of us, make and then have an agenda. What exactly do we want to push? Because this generation, we are making it, we are simplifying it, but we also need to know that our attention span, anything more than 2 minutes on that line, forget about it. You can't get us again. So that's so. Now to now come back to this issue of the legislator, and I will just be brief with that. I think I working with these people, I find out that we need to really understand the workings of the legislation. Now, number one, primarily, Dino will represent his constituency in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
Femi Gbajabiamila will represent his constituency. But getting to that level, conversation now become national, not limited to your constituency. So you are actually picked to go to the national, to have a national conversation as the voice of the people. And that is what they call National Assembly. It's supposed to represent the people. So, and that's why the country is broken into constituency. So you have a representation, and we all look at issues and vote and say, this is where we are going. President, the people have spoken, because you are not there, but the man is representing me, then the people have spoken, the president needs to assent. However, if you begin to judge 109 senator by the number of bills they passed, 360 House of Rep member by the number of bills they passed. So let's even assume in a year, all the 360 are able to pass one bill. You are having 360 laws in a year added to your constitution or to your bylaws. The following year, the same thing. Don't forget, Nigeria is one of the countries with a lot of laws that are not being implemented, poorly implemented. So we keep adding, we want to say, please pass more law, sponsor. At the end of the day, okay, I give you an example. You look at police. When you look at police, one of the things, because somebody want to pass a law and then begin to do good. Now say, look, we need to create the FCC. So we created the FCC, we took away the power of that from the police. NFI. Meanwhile, they still have that power. NFI, thank you. NFI. Now, somebody now said, no. The EFCC is limited, we came up with ICPC. Now, today, we are still talking, and we are still talking about Election Offense Commission, who will try vote buying. Commission, who will try vote buying, who will be trying vote buying. So and then you now find a lot of duplications because somebody want to sponsor a bill. And lastly, let me just say, have you noticed that when the government comes out to tell you that the budget for education is high, and yet people begin to say, because majority of them are recurrent. Do you know why? Every of the senators are sponsoring bill and starting in university, federal university in their constituency.
No.
Okay.
We need to look at that quality. In America, we have people in the Senate, in their house, with 20 years. They have been there because it's the quality of that experience. In the coming, look, I want to
very quickly.
Yes, I want to predict. In the coming House of Assembly, is going to be worse. Do you know why? Majority of people with experience are not coming back.
Yeah.
So they are coming back to learn.
Okay, just to quickly answer this, I know that the quality of bills are important. When we are holding them liable for passing bills, it's because that is their actual job. Now I'll explain something. Everybody wonders why in Nigeria police harasses you, there's the police brutality. The particular part of the constitution that covers or is responsible for your basic rights, which is chapter 2. Are you aware that it's not justiciable? And by not justiciable, it means that in any case which you find your rights being held, if the state can prove itself, the state goes above you. Meaning that your right to life is not fully guaranteed as long as it does not affect the matters of the state. You are saying we have laws. Yes, we have laws, but the laws we have are not relevant to this present time. There's a big problem, there's a big gap. I don't want us to go over this because it means I'll break the constitution, which is a long story, but there's a lot of things. Even our electoral act and I'll end with this. Your electoral act says a president cannot spend 5 billion naira. It says a governor cannot spend 1 billion. A senator cannot spend more than 100 million. We see this happening. Do you know why? Everybody runs away from the fact that that same electoral act does not state who should prosecute.
Yeah.
So at the fact it doesn't state it, when you carry it to, if the FCC carries it to court, the court will say you have no jurisdiction. So that law is missing. That empty part is missing. So we have laws. They are not efficient enough. They need to be tailored to work. And therein lies the problem. Thank you, sir.
So there's something that Bukola said that I want to quickly pick up before we go to the audience. And he talked about the missing young people. If we've gone from 44 million to about between 39 and 37 million for registered voters, it feels like I'm going to direct that question back to all of you. So in 4 years, has the civic engagements for all of these CSOs and organizations that we have, because you guys are not the only ones in this space, has there been a failure? Has there been an inability to bring them back into the fold? And because we can't say all of those millions are accounted for simply because of JACPA. It's not JACPA. It's either tiredness, they don't trust the system, they have seen enough that they don't want to be involved in the system anymore, and they've simply said, I have no interest in being part of this electoral system to even get to the point of registering. So David, I'm going to start with you because it sounds like what he says comes back to being an indictment of those who are working in this space for not being able to bring those people into the sort of governance space as it is. David?
Okay, thank you very much for that. The truth is, if we look at the number of people that are actually coming into the electoral age, and the people, or let me say the youth bloc, and the people that are actually leaving the youth bloc, it shows that the people that are living 34 to 35 years and above are more than people that are becoming 18 and are getting registered. Is that, and I'm going to say that, like you rightly said, it's not only the issue of JACPA. There are several issues that actually makes young people think that votes don't count. There's a video that's it's around Twitter, and I think about from Chude that they brought out, and they were talking about, they're trying to interview Gen Zs on their views, their views about
and knowing their legislators,
and
yes.
all of you saw that video, and it just shows a reflection of the average young person out there. A lot of young people are frustrated about the government. They feel like they don't have a voice. They feel like their vote don't count. But what we say at EI is that if your vote don't count, why are politicians paying you money for it? Why are we seeing voter suppression in several places if truly your vote do not count? You know, and like we also say, we're talking about the CSO space generally. I understand that there is there is a sharp difference in the way that we used to communicate before and the kind of communication that should be happening now. You know, even talking about infographics before, I mean, a lot of CSOs are big on media, press release, all of those things. And we realized that, to be honest, most of the audience that we are trying to speak to, especially the youth bloc, they have actually left that space, so to say. You will see that a lot of our mainstream media are actually leveraging social media. And CSOs are actually really catching up with that. As media are catching up, CSOs are catching up to actually meet up that communication gap. And I believe so much, like what we do in my organization, what Budget does with partners, what Electoral College is doing, what K-Impact is doing. We are looking for several ways, researching every day on how to get these people and get them into governance. And that is why I will talk again about the OOTC WhatsApp bot that we created. You want to know where your polling unit is, it's just now chat with your WhatsApp bot, because people don't go to the website anymore. Check the statistics, check the analytics. People are not going there. You're just putting the information there, but they're not going. So that is why we are bringing it back to the day-to-day social media to now say, oh, do you want to vote? Click here to check your polling unit. Put so-so in here to know who represents you. And I think that's one of the most important features of the OTC WhatsApp bot. I believe we'll have a minute to watch the video before we leave here. And it is that when you chat with the bot and you put in your information, it will actually give you everybody that represents you, right from the president to your local government chairman. So when you see those people and you can have their contacts from our SY Shine Your Eye website, then you can now call them, text them, send them an email to say, we've seen what Budget said on tracker to say that so it's happening, what is going on. And we believe that as much as we get a lot of organized voices asking questions, then these people will sit up and they'll be forced to actually respond to citizens, because the Office of Citizens that we always practice at EIA is the biggest office of the land, bigger than the president, bigger than the governor. It's just that people do not know the power that the Office of Citizen actually holds, and we are always here to teach that.
All right, so before we come to questions, let's look at that video now from EIE. It's basically just about 1 minute, and then we'll come to questions or even comments really from the audience, but we'll make that very quick.
Active citizens, are you occupying your office of the citizen? Would you like to use tech to hold government accountable? Enough is enough. Nigeria presents Office of the Citizen, OOTC WhatsApp bot. OOTC bot is your #1 RSVP companion to help you understand the role you must play before, during, and after elections, especially to ensure that the officers you elect serve you. To get started, scan the QR code or save +234 1700 6381 on your phone contact. Go to your WhatsApp contact and search for Office of the Citizen. Send hello. You will get an instant welcome message. Tell us your name, state, and local government so we can give you the information that's specific to your location. Send menu to view the options. You can select from the array of options available to you on the menu. Press 1 to get the details of your elected officials. If you don't know who represents you, reply with your polling unit number at the top left corner of your PVC. Press 2 to get information on PVC collection. This will show you the INEC office address where your PVC is available for pickup. Press 3 for information on upcoming debates and town hall meetings. Press 4 to learn about INEC voting procedure. Press 5 for polling unit locator. This will help you locate the address of your polling unit on the day of the election. To find your polling unit, reply with your polling unit number. Press 6 to find other ways to get involved through Global Citizen. Active citizens, #OOTC bot is always available to give you the information you need to effectively occupy your office of the citizen. Stop ranting, start acting.
All right, EIE, thank you so much. So we just have about 5 minutes, and I'd really like to hear from the audience in terms of questions they may have. Let's keep them very simple, or even comments, because some of the conversation on stage has been very interesting. So just do an introduction of yourself, your name, if you're representing an organization, and very straight to your comment or question. So do I have any questions, comments? I see the lady in front here. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Stella Maris Ashinzi. I'm from the media, News Agency of Nigeria. My question is directed to you, Bukola. You made mention of experiences leaving the House in this forthcoming election. Do you see it as a challenge? Are we not overdue for such kind of change? That's just my own question, because I don't see anything wrong with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Bukola, please go ahead. Anybody else who has a question or comment, raise your hand and we'll come to you after that.
I see that as a challenge because we can't take experience away. And that is why we keep, for governorship election, for presidency, we say someone has had experience, this one has had experience, and then we come to the business of lawmaking that we guide the executive. And we are not really concerned about the experience. I see that as a challenge. Like I said, France, UK, US, some of these countries have viable, solid parliamentary system, legislative system. And one of the things we have seen, because we took time to study them, I even went, as of October last year, I was still in the US Senate, trying to understudy some of these things. And then you see people who have been there 20 years, the quality of experience they are bringing in. They can tell you the story behind a particular act of parliament, story behind a particular bill. But here in Nigeria, somebody spent 4 years, and then at the end of the day, he's gone. However, I also understand our multi-ethnic group, because some people feel it's not your birthright. I agree with that, it's not your birthright. But however, not what we have 1 year, first tenure, just 4 years, and the person is off the radar. And then we now bring in people who start learning, and don't forget, who start learning, the art of parliament. And don't forget that you cannot be a principal member in the House if you are not, they call it high-ranking member. So which means you must have spent at least 2 terms. So, and that is where the challenge is. So some of the people you will see who are going to be the head of committee are likely going to be new. So they start afresh.
Bukola, I just think to solve that has always been something we've been talking about. The average Nigerian does not know the Nigerian constitution, and that's where the biggest problem is. That's why when they get to the Senate or the House of Rep, they have to start learning the constitution. That's the big problem. Learn it before. It's your birthright as a Nigerian. If I ask anybody here, nobody has read it. I don't need to argue that one. My 96% is rising.
I just keep feeling...
Where are you whipping your stats
spotlight every time he looks in this direction. All right, I have a question here. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for this. My name is Nena, and what you just said right now just hit a mark. The constitution thing. The average Nigerian, that's very true. So I want to ask, is it available out there publicly? Yes? One can pick it up, right?
Yes, it is.
Because that 96%.
You know what? Everybody can do something now. Okay. If you're using an Android phone, just type the Nigerian Constitution. The app will come up.
There's an app for it.
There's an app for it. And once you have the app, you can always, in your spare time, you can even search within the app if you are looking for rights. Governor, it will show you all the things.
I actually think that is something that if we are serious about promoting constitutional, it is something that we need to infuse into our educational system. The basic part of the constitution.
Let me ask you a simple question.
Yes.
Is Big Brother infused in our national?
It does not. How many people watch Big Brother? We cannot. That's not even. That's an entertainment show. The constitution in itself is not entertaining. Nobody is going to just sit down unless you have a vested interest. You're not going to just sit down and pick up the constitution and start reading. Because you don't have a vested interest. It is not entertaining. It's like suffering yourself.
It could be life
yes. So the only thing we can do, I know we have simplified versions. Yes. Have simplified version. Infuse it into our educational system. then we can now develop, what will I call it, what will I call it, to actually begin to, maybe when you read it, then you study it.
Let me say this.
Okay. We're running out of time.
Yes, I know we are out of time. Please, just in 30 seconds.
30 seconds each.
I met a man in US who was the head of International Republican Institute. And then we got talking. He said, Bukola, see, when we were growing up, the kind of cartoon we watched was about Jefferson, was about Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. Yes. So we grew with that knowledge. And that is where we need collaboration. Nigerian Constitution, if you read it, is boring.
Every constitution is boring.
So what we need to do, and that is why we still need to collaborate.
Okay, Bukola.
We need to help.
Okay, Kule, I said I'll give you 30 seconds as well. We're about to...
Okay, sorry.
Going to kick us.
Let me take five. Also, just talking about the collaboration, I think I was discussing with Kule like yesterday, and we're talking about the fact that even the electoral hack that's out there, that we've not been able to harness all the powers of the electoral hack, because even people do not understand it yet, and CSOs actually really need to work together, collaborate, simplify this information. Who is doing infograph, who is doing comics, who is going to do radio shows, who is going to do dialogue, who is going to sponsor a Netflix drama, whatever it takes for people to understand their rights. Because when the people actually know their rights, they will be able to occupy the office of citizen, and that is when we can actually have the real power of the people.
Okay, Kule, last, you have 30 seconds, that's it.
Okay, since I have 30 seconds, I'm going to say what matters. The way America took over the world was not by the nuclear missiles, by anything you think they did. America used the media to take over the world. They believed that if aliens came to, they made you think that if aliens came to any country in the world, it's the president of America they will interact with. So she says entertaining, yeah, you have all that. I like your generation very much. You don't pay attention to anything. But the truth is, to be able to win something, we must pay strong attention to it. Till Nollywood partners with these CSOs and starts to sell a message that the most populous black nation is important to the world, Nigeria is not going anywhere. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to my panelists, Bukola, Kunle, Ayomide, as well as David. Interesting enough, New Central is partnering with Electoral College. There's going to be the Lagos gubernatorial debate on Wednesday next week. We start from 6 o'clock. You can watch it on DSTV 422 or Start Times 274 and even on our YouTube. We're also working on a partnership. See, there's media that's collaborating, and that's us. We're also working on a partnership with budgets to make budgetary information simplified, and that's going to likely happen on our business show as well. We have a partnership with Enough is Enough. So there are media who are invested and interested in these type of collaborations. Please look for them. So I think I need to bring Bukola into the fold now.
No, we're also partnering with Budget. I think she doesn't know, with Civic Hive on the gubernatorial debate.
So we're
Shehu
there.
and I are working on it.
So we're all there. So
together.
one other thing we'll say is this. One other message you take, because the elections are coming, you have registered, you have collected, but nothing will change if you do not turn out. This election will likely be determined not because of a large demographic of young people, but by voter turnout. So please, let's keep that in mind. Encourage everybody to come out on February the 25th as well as March the 11th. It's not just February 25th. There are governorship and state houses of assembly elections that are equally important on March the 11th. Please, we need to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.